"You've abandoned your faith, Dad. You told me yourself." That's what she told Pastor Williams, word for word. I know because he showed up at my door on a Tuesday morning, 63 years of friendship on his face, asking if I needed to talk about my spiritual crisis. I hadn't abandoned anything. I'd been at church 3 days earlier. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what time it is where you are now. My daughter Jennifer lied to my pastor, told him I'd renounced God and wanted to be excommunicated from the church I'd attended for 41 years. The church where Martha and I got married, where we baptized Jennifer, where I held Martha's memorial service 18 months ago. Pastor Williams stood on my porch, his Bible tucked under one arm, concern etched deep in the lines around his eyes. "Thomas, I received a very troubling call from Jennifer yesterday. She says you've lost your faith." I stared at him. "I was at service on Sunday. She said you've been going through the motions, that you confided in her about your doubts." He shifted his weight, uncomfortable. "She was quite specific, Thomas. Said you'd asked her how to formally leave the church." The coffee in my hand had gone cold. I'd poured it 20 minutes ago before the doorbell rang. "Come inside, David." We'd known each other since 1981. He'd married Martha and me, baptized our daughter, counseled us through the rough patches every marriage has, prayed with me in the hospital while Martha faded. He sat at my kitchen table, the oak one I'd built in my garage. Same table where Jennifer used to do her homework while Martha made dinner. "I haven't lost my faith," I said. "I haven't asked anyone about leaving the church." I don't know why Jennifer would say that. Pastor Williams opened his Bible. Habit, probably. His hands needed something to do. "She seemed very certain, very worried about you." He paused. "She mentioned that you'd been making unusual financial decisions, that she was concerned about your judgment." There it was. The money. What kind of financial decisions? She didn't elaborate. Just said you'd been acting erratically since Martha passed, that you'd made comments about the church not deserving your support. He looked up at me. "Thomas, if you're struggling, we can talk about it. Grief can shake anyone's faith." I set down my cup. Didn't trust myself to hold it. I increased my tithe 3 months ago, from 8% to 12%. His expression shifted, just slightly. "You increased it?" "Doubled my monthly giving too, the building fund." I stood, walked to my desk in the corner, pulled out my checkbook register, brought it back to the table. "Here, January through March, every Sunday." He looked at the entries. I'd written them in my careful print, the same way I'd kept records for 43 years at the power company. Dates, amounts, check numbers. "This is," he trailed off, "12% of my pension and Social Security, plus $300 a month to the building fund." I sat back down. "You can verify it with Karen in the office." Pastor Williams closed the register, folded his hands on top of it. "Why would Jennifer say you'd renounced your faith?" That was the question, wasn't it? "She's angry with me," I said. "Has been for 3 months, ever since I told her I was updating my will." He waited. "Martha and I had Jennifer as our sole beneficiary. Everything split between her and any grandchildren. Standard setup." I picked up my coffee. Still cold. After Martha died, I started thinking about what I wanted my legacy to be. Martha and I always planned to leave something to the church. We just never got around to updating the paperwork. And you're doing that now. Half to Jennifer, quarter to the church, quarter to the community center where I volunteer. I met his eyes. "It's my money, David. Mine and Martha's. We earned it. We get to decide where it goes." "Of course you do." He said it gently, pastoral voice. "But I can understand Jennifer feeling entitled." The word came out harder than I meant it. She's been spending that inheritance for 2 years. In her head, picked out the kitchen remodel she'd do, the car she'd buy, mentioned it at Christmas, at Easter, at Martha's memorial. I stood up, walked to the counter, dumped the cold coffee in the sink. She called me 2 weeks ago, asked how much the house was worth. Not, "How are you doing, Dad?" Not, "I miss Mom." How much is the house worth? I rinsed the cup, set it in the drainer. I told her I didn't know, hadn't had it appraised. She asked if I'd thought about selling it, moving somewhere smaller. Had you? No. I turned around. This is my home, David. I built the deck out back, refinished the floors. There's still paint on the garage workbench from when I built Jennifer's dollhouse. I'm not selling it so she can have her kitchen remodeled 2 years early. Pastor Williams nodded slowly. And when you told her about the will? She said I was being manipulated, that the church was taking advantage of a grieving widower. I laughed. Bitter sound. She actually said that, like you'd been pressuring me, like I don't have a brain in my head. I've never discussed your estate planning with you. I know that. You know that. I sat back down. Jennifer doesn't care. She cares that her inheritance got cut in half. So now I'm mentally incompetent. I'm in a spiritual crisis. I'm making erratic decisions. He was quiet for a moment. Then, Thomas, I need to ask you directly. Do you want to remain a member of this church? Yes. Do you believe in God? In Christ? Yes. I met his eyes. Same as I did 41 years ago when you baptized me. Same as I did when Martha died, and you sat with me for 3 hours while I cried. Nothing's changed, David. Except my daughter's discovered she's not getting as much money as she thought. Williams closed his Bible. I believe you. But Thomas, this is a serious accusation Jennifer made. If it gets around the congregation, it already has, hasn't it? He didn't answer. Didn't need to. I could see it in his face. Who'd she tell? She called me yesterday, Sunday afternoon. He hesitated. She may have mentioned it to some of the ladies in her Bible study group. Margaret Chen's group. 8 women who'd known Jennifer since she was in youth group. 8 women who loved gossip wrapped in prayer requests. So by now the whole church knows I've renounced God. I'll make it clear that's not the case. I'll talk to the elders tonight. We'll address it Sunday if we need to. He stood. Thomas, I'm sorry. I should have verified before coming here. Jennifer was very convincing. She's had practice, I said. After he left, I sat at the kitchen table for a long time. The same table where Jennifer had eaten breakfast before school, where she'd told us she was pregnant at 17, where Martha and I had argued about whether to help her with rent after the second eviction. The same table where Jennifer had sat 2 months ago, asking about the house value. I pulled out my phone, opened my banking app. The transactions glowed in the afternoon light coming through the window. $1,200 to Jennifer, January 15th. Emergency, car repair. $800 to Jennifer, January 28th. Kids need winter coats. $650 to Jennifer, February 11th. Medical bills. $400 to Jennifer, February 23rd. Rent short this month. $200 to Jennifer, March 3rd. Tyler needs braces deposit. I scrolled back. 6 months, 12 months, 2 years. $47,300 since Martha died. That wasn't counting the $15,000 I'd given her for the down payment on her townhouse. Wasn't counting the $8,000 for her car when the transmission died. Wasn't counting the wedding I'd paid for when she married Greg. Wasn't counting the nursery furniture, the hospital bills when Tyler was born premature. I'd been supporting my daughter for 27 years, since she'd gotten pregnant senior year of high school and decided to keep the baby. Never asked for payback, never kept a ledger. Just helped because that's what fathers do. But apparently, half the inheritance wasn't enough. She needed all of it. Needed it bad enough to lie to my pastor, to tell my church I'd lost my faith, to try to get me excommunicated. I set down the phone. My hands were steady. That surprised me. I'd been angry before. When Jennifer dropped out of college after 1 semester, when she got evicted the second time, when she asked for money at Martha's funeral. But this was different. This was cold. Calculated. This was my daughter deciding that money mattered more than my reputation. More than my standing in a church I'd attended for 41 years. More than the community that had supported us through Martha's illness. More than me. My phone buzzed. Text from Jennifer. Dad, can you help with groceries this week? Things are tight. No mention of her call to Pastor Williams, No mention of telling my church I'd abandoned my faith. Just her hand out again, expecting the ATM to dispense. I stared at the text. 4 months ago, I would have replied immediately. Asked how much she needed. Transferred it within the hour. I typed, "No." 1 word. Hit send before I could second guess it. 3 dots appeared immediately. Disappeared. Appeared again. "What do you mean, no?" "I mean I'm not sending you money this week." The dots pulsed for a long time. "Are you serious right now? The kids need to eat." "Then I suggest you and Greg use your grocery budget." "We don't have one. That's why I'm asking you." 3 separate messages, coming fast. "Dad, what is going on with you?" I could feel it building now. The rage I'd been pushing down since Pastor Williams showed up at my door. "What's going on is I had an interesting visit this morning. Pastor Williams stopped by." The dots stopped. No response for a full minute. Then, "Oh. I typed it with my thumbs, hand still steady. "That's all you have to say, oh?" "Dad, I was worried about you. You haven't been yourself since Mom died." "I've been myself enough to send you $47,000 in 18 months. The dots appeared. Disappeared. Didn't come back. I waited. 5 minutes. 10. Finally, "I never asked you to do that." My jaw tightened. I could feel the muscle jumping. Same way it used to when she'd come home past curfew. When I'd found out she'd wrecked the car and lied about it. When she'd forged Martha's signature on the permission slip. "You asked every time," I typed. "Emergency car repair. Kids need coats. Medical bills. Rent short. Tyler needs braces. Every single time, Jennifer. You asked and I gave." That's what family does. They help each other. And family also doesn't lie to their pastor, doesn't tell their church their father renounced God, doesn't try to get their father excommunicated. No dots, no response. I stood up, walked to the window. The oak tree in the backyard was starting to leaf out. Martha and I had planted it the year we bought the house, 43 years ago. My phone rang. Jennifer. I almost didn't answer. Let it ring 4 times before I picked up. "Dad, I think there's been a misunderstanding." Her voice was tight, controlled. The tone she used when she was trying to manage a situation. "I didn't tell Pastor Williams you'd renounced God." "That's exactly what you told him." "I said I was worried about you, that you seemed to be pulling away from the church. That's not the same thing." "He said you told him I'd asked about formally leaving. About excommunication." Silence. "Jennifer, I might have said that you'd mentioned questioning things, that you seemed lost." She was backpedaling now. I could hear it. "I was trying to get him to reach out to you, to help you through your grief." "By telling the entire Bible study group that I'd abandoned my faith?" "I didn't tell the entire group. I asked them to pray for you." "Prayer request or gossip, Jennifer? Because by the time Pastor Williams got here, he'd already heard from multiple people." "That's not my fault." The rage in my chest sharpened, focused. "You're right," I said. "It's not your fault that Margaret Chen can't keep her mouth shut. But it is your fault that you gave her something to spread. It is your fault that you lied to my pastor, and it is absolutely your fault that you tried to destroy my reputation in my own church because you're angry I changed my will." "This has nothing to do with the will?" "Everything about this has to do with the will." I was gripping the phone now. "You found out you're getting half instead of all, and you decided to punish me for it. You decided that if you couldn't get the money, you'd take my church instead. You're being paranoid, Dad. You're not thinking clearly." "I'm thinking perfectly clearly. For the first time in 18 months. I looked at the oak tree, at the deck I'd built, at the yard where Jennifer had played as a child. I've been thinking clearly enough to count up how much I've given you since your mother died. $47,300, not counting the down payment, not counting the car, not counting anything from before Martha got sick. I never asked you to keep track. You never asked me to keep giving either. You just assumed. Every emergency, every shortfall, every time your budget didn't quite work out." I paused. "When's the last time you visited me, Jennifer?" She didn't answer. "I'll tell you. February 12th. You stopped by for 20 minutes to get a check for Tyler's school fees. Before that, Christmas Day. You stayed for 2 hours, opened presents, ate dinner, left. I pulled up my calendar app, scrolled back. In the 18 months since your mother died, you visited me 11 times. Average visit length, 73 minutes. Every single visit included a request for money. I can't believe you timed my visits. I didn't have to. I keep a calendar. You're in it. The bitterness in my voice surprised me. You know what else is in my calendar? Every Sunday I've been at church. Every Tuesday I volunteer at the community center. Every Thursday I have coffee with Bob Turner and Bill Mitchell. You remember them. They were at your mother's funeral. Every second Saturday I help Pastor Williams with the food pantry. What's your point? My point is that I have a life, a full life. A life with a church and a community and a purpose. And you tried to take that away from me because you're mad about money. I was trying to help. You were trying to isolate me. You were trying to make me look incompetent, so when you challenge the will, you have witnesses who'll say I wasn't in my right mind. I said it calmly, clearly. That's what this is about. Jennifer, you're building a case. The silence stretched out, long enough that I checked to see if the call had dropped. Then, you really think that little of me? I think exactly as much of you as your actions have shown me. I looked at my reflection in the window glass. 70 years old. Face lined from decades at the power company. Hair white. But my eyes were clear. Focused. Here's what's going to happen. I'm not sending you any more money. Not for groceries. Not for emergencies. Not for anything. Dad, I'm not finished. I'm going to talk to the church elders. I'm going to set the record straight about my faith and my involvement. And then I'm going to make sure every member of that congregation knows exactly what you did and why you did it. You can't. I can. And I will. My voice was steady. Rock steady. You tried to take my church from me, Jennifer. You tried to take the one thing I have left that connects me to your mother, to 41 years of my life. You don't get to do that and keep pretending you're the victim. I'm your daughter. Yes, you are, and I'm your father. The father who supported you for 27 years, who gave you a home when you got evicted, who paid for your wedding, who sends you money every time you ask. The father who loved you enough to make sure you'd be taken care of after I'm gone. I paused. But I'm also a man with a life and a faith and a community. And you tried to destroy all three because half an inheritance wasn't enough for you. I could hear her breathing, fast, angry. The money stops today, I said. The transfers stop. The emergency checks stop. You and Greg figure out your budget on your own. And if you ever lie about me again, to my pastor, to my church, to anyone, I'll cut you out of the will entirely. The church gets it all. You wouldn't. Try me. I hung up before she could respond. Set the phone face down on the counter. My hands were shaking now. Not from fear, from fury that had nowhere left to go. The house was quiet, same as it had been every day since Martha died, but somehow it felt different now. Emptier, or maybe just more honest. I'd been pretending for 18 months, pretending that Jennifer visited because she cared, pretending that the money requests were temporary, pretending that we had the same relationship we'd had before Martha got sick. We didn't. Maybe we never had. Maybe I'd just been too busy supporting her, too busy being dad, to notice that she'd turned me into a resource instead of a person. My phone started buzzing. Jennifer calling back. I let it ring. Voicemail picked up. Buzzed again 30 seconds later. Voicemail. Again. 5 calls in 10 minutes. Then texts started coming in. Dad, please pick up. We need to talk about this. You're being unreasonable. Fine, don't send money, but you can't tell the church those things about me. Dad, answer your phone. I'm calling Greg. He'll talk sense into you. I turned the phone over, put it on silent, poured myself a fresh cup of coffee. The buzzing continued. Vibrations on the counter. Insistent, demanding. I ignored it. There was a folder on my desk. Blue. I'd put it together last week. Walked over to it now, flipped it open. Last will and testament, printed at the top of the first page. I'd had Jerry Blackwood draw it up. He'd done Martha's and my first will 30 years ago. Knew our family. Knew Jennifer. Hadn't asked any questions when I'd called and asked him to revise the beneficiaries. 50% to Jennifer Mitchell and any living descendants, 25% to First Baptist Church of Harrison, 25% to Harrison Community Center. There was a second document behind the will, durable power of attorney. I'd assigned it to Bob Turner, my friend for 40 years, deacon at the church, retired accountant. If I became incapacitated, Bob would make decisions, not Jennifer. A third document, healthcare directive. Bob Turner again. Pastor Williams as backup, not Jennifer. I'd signed all of them last Tuesday. Jerry had them filed and witnessed. They were legal, binding. I'd been protecting myself without even fully realizing why. No, that wasn't true. I'd known why. I'd known when Jennifer started asking about the house value, when she'd asked about selling it, when she'd gotten angry about the tithe increase. I'd known she cared more about the money than about me. I just hadn't wanted to believe it. My phone buzzed again. Different pattern. Text from Pastor Williams. Thomas, I spoke with the elders. We'd like you to meet with us tomorrow evening if you're available. We want to address this properly. I texted back, I'll be there. Thank you, David. Then I pulled up my banking app, went into settings, found the list of authorized transfer recipients. Jennifer's name at the top. I deleted it. The system asked me to confirm. I confirmed. Jennifer Mitchell has been removed from your authorized recipients. Done. $47,000 over 18 months. That was done too. I sat back down at the kitchen table. My coffee was still hot. The afternoon light slanted through the window, catching dust motes in the air. The same light that had come through this window for 43 years. Martha and I used to sit here in the afternoons. She'd read. I'd do crosswords. We didn't always talk. Didn't need to. Just being together was enough. I missed her so much it physically hurt. An ache in my chest that never quite went away. But I was glad she wasn't here to see this. Glad she didn't have to know what Jennifer had done. It would have broken her heart. Maybe that was why I'd kept giving Jennifer money. Kept answering her calls. Kept pretending everything was fine. Because as long as I kept playing the role, Martha's daughter still existed. The little girl who'd sat at this table doing homework, who'd brought home macaroni art from school, who'd cried when the dog died, but that little girl was gone. Had been gone for a long time. The woman who'd replaced her had tried to get me excommunicated, had lied to my pastor, had told my church I'd renounced God. All for money I'd earned, money Martha and I had saved. Money that was mine to give to whoever I damn well pleased. My phone buzzed. Greg, this time. Jennifer's husband. Tom, Jennifer's really upset. I think there's been some miscommunication here. Can we talk? I almost laughed. Miscommunication. Like I'd misunderstood when she told Pastor Williams I'd abandoned my faith. I typed back, no miscommunication. Tell Jennifer I meant everything I said. The money stops. The transfers stop. If she needs help, she figures it out herself. Tom, come on. We've got bills. The kids need parents who can manage a budget. Figure it out. I put the phone down, stood up, walked to the back door. The deck needed staining. I'd been meaning to do it for 2 years, kept putting it off. Too much work, too much effort. I'd do it this weekend. Get the supplies from Home Depot. Spend Saturday afternoon with the stain and the brush and the sun. Martha would have helped. Would have painted the railings while I did the deck boards. Would have brought out lemonade and sandwiches. Would have made it feel less like work and more like an afternoon together. I'd do it alone now. But I'd do it. My phone rang again. I let it ring. When Wednesday morning came, my phone showed 43 missed calls, 27 texts, 3 voicemails. I deleted them all without listening. At 6 p.m., I drove to the church. The parking lot was mostly empty. Just Pastor Williams's truck and 4 other cars I recognized. The elders. I walked into the conference room. 5 men sat around the table. I'd known every one of them for decades. Bob Turner, deacon, my power of attorney. Bill Mitchell, elder. I'd helped him remodel his kitchen. Frank Peterson, elder. His wife had been in Martha's book club. Sam Hughes, elder. We'd coached Little League together 20 years ago. And Pastor Williams. They all stood when I came in. Bob pulled out a chair for me. "Thomas," Pastor Williams said, "thank you for coming." I sat. "I assume you've heard the full story by now." "We've heard several versions," Frank said carefully. "We wanted to hear yours. So I told them everything. Jennifer's calls about the house value, the will changes, the increased tithe, her accusation that I'd renounced my faith, the $47,000, the texts from this week. I didn't editorialize, didn't add emotion, just laid out the facts in chronological order. When I finished, the room was quiet. Sam Hughes broke the silence. "Tom, I'm going to ask you directly, same as David did. Do you believe in God?" "Yes." "Do you believe in Jesus Christ as your Savior?" "Yes, same as I have since I was 12 years old." "Do you want to remain a member of this church?" "Yes." He nodded, looked at the other men. "Then as far as I'm concerned, that's settled." "Agreed," Bob said immediately. Bill and Frank nodded. Pastor Williams leaned forward. "Thomas, I owe you an apology. I should have verified Jennifer's claims before coming to your house. I should have checked with Karen about your giving. I should have—" "You did what pastors do," I interrupted. "You responded to a concern from a church member. You came to check on someone you thought might be struggling. You did your job, David." "But I gave credence to a lie." "You didn't know it was a lie. I barely wanted to believe it myself." I looked at each man in turn. "But now we all know the truth. And I need your help making sure the congregation knows it too." "We'll address it Sunday," Pastor Williams said. "From the pulpit if we need to." "It's already been addressed," Bob said quietly. "Word travels fast, Tom. By Tuesday afternoon, half the church had heard that Jennifer had lied. By Tuesday evening, the other half knew. You've got more people in your corner than you might think." I felt something loosen in my chest. Just slightly. "Margaret Chen's Bible study group?" "Margaret called me Tuesday night," Pastor Williams said. "She felt terrible. Said she'd repeated what Jennifer told her without questioning it. She's planning to apologize to you publicly on Sunday." "That's not necessary." "It is," Frank said firmly. "Your reputation was damaged publicly. It needs to be restored publicly." Sam leaned back in his chair. "Tom, can I ask you something? What are you going to do about Jennifer?" "Nothing. I've already done it." I pulled out my phone, showed them the banking app. Jennifer's name absent from the transfer list. No more money, no more emergency checks. She figures out her life on her own. "That's hard," Bill said softly. "Cutting off your own daughter." "I'm not cutting her off. I'm setting a boundary. There's a difference." I put the phone away. For 27 years, I've supported her, paid her rent, bought her cars, covered her emergencies. And the one time I make a decision about my own money, money I earned, money Martha and I saved, she tries to destroy my life to punish me for it. "What if she apologizes?" Pastor Williams asked. "Then I'll forgive her, but the money still stops, because this isn't about punishment. It's about teaching her that I'm a person, not a bank account. That she can't lie and manipulate and expect me to keep funding her life." I met his eyes. Martha would have wanted me to help her, but Martha also would have wanted me to have some self-respect, some boundaries. I've failed at that for a long time. I'm not failing anymore. Bob nodded slowly. "Makes sense to me." The other men murmured agreement. "There's one more thing," I said. I pulled out my folder, the blue one from my desk, set it on the table. "This is my will, my power of attorney, my healthcare directive." Jerry Blackwood drew them up. You're the first people outside his office to see them. I opened the folder, showed them the distribution. Half to Jennifer, quarter to the church, quarter to the community center. I looked at Pastor Williams. I'm telling you this so there's no surprises when I die, and so you know that Jennifer has a financial motive for questioning my competence. Pastor Williams frowned. Do you think she'll contest the will? I think she already started building that case when she told you I'd renounced my faith. He's not thinking clearly. He's pulled away from his church. He's making erratic financial decisions. That's the foundation for an incompetence claim. I closed the folder. But I'm documented. I've got cognitive evaluations, church attendance records, volunteer hours, bank statements showing consistent, rational financial management. If she challenges this, she loses. You've thought this through, Sam said. I've had to. I stood. Gentlemen, thank you for listening. Thank you for believing me. I know Jennifer's been part of this church her whole life. I know people love her. I'm not asking you to choose sides. I'm just asking you to know the truth. We do, Bob said. And Tom, you're not in this alone. That night, I slept better than I had in months. Sunday came. I arrived at church early, parked in my usual spot, walked through the double doors I'd been walking through for 41 years. Margaret Chen was waiting in the lobby. She walked straight to me, eyes red. Thomas, I'm so sorry. I should never have repeated what Jennifer said. I should have come to you first. I should have. Margaret, I put a hand on her shoulder. I forgive you. It's okay. She burst into tears, right there in the church lobby. I handed her my handkerchief. Martha had embroidered my initials on it. TRM, Thomas Raymond Mitchell. It's not okay, Margaret sobbed. I hurt you. I spread gossip. You believe someone you've known since she was a teenager. That's not a crime. I kept my voice gentle. Jennifer lied. You repeated it. Those are two different things. She dabbed at her eyes. I'm standing up in service today. I'm telling everyone what I did. You don't have to. Yes, I do. And then I'm apologizing to you in front of the whole church. I didn't argue with her. Some things people need to do for themselves. The sanctuary filled. I sat in my usual pew, third row from the back, left side. The pew where Martha and I had sat together for 38 years. Jennifer wasn't there. Neither was Greg. I hadn't expected them to be. Service started. Hymns, announcements. Then Pastor Williams stood at the pulpit. Before we continue, he said, there's a matter we need to address as a church family. Some of you have heard rumors this week about Thomas Mitchell. I want to set the record straight. The sanctuary went quiet. Thomas Mitchell is a faithful member of this church. He has been for 41 years. He has not renounced his faith. He has not asked about leaving the church. Those reports were false, and they came from a family member who was upset with Thomas about a personal matter. Pastor Williams paused. Thomas, would you stand? I stood, turned to face the congregation. This man, Pastor Williams said, increased his tithe 3 months ago. He volunteers at the food pantry every other Saturday. He attends every Sunday unless he's sick. He prays, he serves, he believes. And this church owes him an apology for allowing false testimony to spread. Applause started somewhere in the middle pews, spread through the sanctuary. People stood, one by one, then in groups. Standing ovation. For me. For my faith. I felt my throat tighten. Had to blink hard to keep my vision clear. Margaret Chen stood next. I need to confess something to this church. I repeated gossip about Thomas without verifying it. I hurt a brother in Christ because I didn't check the facts. Thomas, I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. I do, I said. My voice carried. I forgive you, Margaret. She sat down, crying again. Bob Turner stood. I've known Tom Mitchell for 40 years. He's the most faithful man I know. If anyone questions that, they can talk to me. One by one, others stood. Bill Mitchell, Sam Hughes, Frank Peterson, members I'd served with on committees, people I'd helped move, families I'd brought meals to when they'd had new babies or deaths or illnesses. My church family, standing up for me. When service ended, I couldn't get to my car. Too many people wanting to shake my hand, to apologize, to tell me they'd never believe the rumors. It took me 45 minutes to make it to the parking lot. My phone buzzed as I unlocked my truck. Text from an unknown number. Dad, it's me. I'm using Mom's old phone. You blocked my real number. I hadn't blocked it. I just stopped responding. I heard what happened at church today. I can't believe you embarrassed me like that. I stared at the text, read it 3 times. She couldn't believe I'd embarrassed her. Not, "I'm sorry I lied." Not, "I'm sorry I tried to destroy your reputation." Not, "I'm sorry for any of it." Just outrage that I'd defended myself. I typed, "I didn't embarrass you. You embarrassed yourself. Actions have consequences. You turned the whole church against me. You did that yourself when you lied to them. I'm your daughter. You're supposed to support me. I supported you for 27 years, financially, emotionally, practically. I gave you everything I had to give. But support doesn't mean letting you destroy me when you don't get your way." The dots pulsed for a long time, disappeared, came back. "Fine. Keep your money. Keep your church. I hope you're happy alone." Something twisted in my chest. Sharp. Painful. But I typed, "I'd rather be alone than be an ATM you only call when you need a withdrawal." No response. The dots didn't reappear. I drove home, made lunch, ate it at the kitchen table. The house was quiet. Same as every day. But somehow, today, the quiet felt different. Felt like peace instead of loneliness. Monday morning my phone rang. Jerry Blackwood. "Tom, I just got served with papers. Jennifer's contesting the will." I'd expected it. Had known it was coming since the moment Pastor Williams showed up at my door. On what grounds? Undue influence and diminished capacity. She's claiming the church manipulated you into changing your will while you were grieving. She's got 3 people willing to testify that you were not yourself after Martha died. Who are the 3 people? Her husband, Greg, her neighbor, Linda Harris, and some guy named Brandon Tyler who says he's a financial advisor who worked with you and observed erratic behavior. I'd never met Brandon Tyler in my life. "Jerry, I've got documentation, cognitive evaluation, church attendance records, volunteer logs, bank statements showing rational financial management, character witnesses who'll testify I'm perfectly competent." She's not going to win this. I know, but it's going to be expensive. Court costs, expert witnesses, my time. He paused. "Tom, are you sure you want to go through this? It might be easier to just revise the will back to what it was." No, this isn't about the money anymore, Jerry. This is about my daughter trying to prove I'm incompetent so she can control my life. If I give in, if I change the will back, I'm admitting she's right. I'm admitting I can't be trusted to make my own decisions. I looked at Martha's photo on the mantel. I'm 70 years old. I worked for 43 years. I saved and invested and planned. This is my money, mine and Martha's, and I get to decide what happens to it. Okay then, we fight. Jerry's voice was firm. I'll need you to come in this week. We'll start building the defense. The court case took 8 months. 8 months of depositions and evaluations and testimony. Jennifer's lawyers tried everything. Claimed I was depressed. Claimed I was being manipulated. Claimed I was mentally declining. Pastor Williams testified that I was the same man he'd known for 40 years. Sharp, faithful, engaged. Bob Turner testified about my financial management. Showed my investment portfolio, my retirement planning, my careful record-keeping. Dr. Sarah Kim, the geriatric psychiatrist who'd evaluated me, testified that I'd scored perfectly on cognitive tests, that I showed no signs of dementia or impairment. Karen from the church office testified about my increased giving, showed records of my consistent attendance. Bill Mitchell testified that we still met every Thursday for coffee, that we discussed current events, politics, theology, that I was as sharp as ever. Jennifer's witness, Brandon Tyler? Turned out he'd met me once at a bank, helped me with a wire transfer, had no basis for claiming I'd shown erratic behavior. The judge dismissed his testimony entirely. Her neighbor, Linda Harris, testified that I'd seemed sad after Martha died. The judge asked if grief was evidence of incompetence. She had no answer. Greg testified that I'd changed. The judge asked how. He couldn't provide specifics. In the end, it wasn't even close. The judge ruled in my favor. The will stood, all of it, every word. But she didn't stop there. "Mrs. Mitchell," the judge said, looking directly at Jennifer, "you brought this case knowing it had no merit. You wasted the court's time and your father's resources. You attempted to prove incompetence based on nothing more than your own disappointment about an inheritance you haven't even inherited yet. Jennifer's lawyer tried to interrupt. The judge held up a hand. I've read the depositions. I've heard the testimony. Your father is a competent, rational man who made a thoughtful decision about his estate. The fact that you disagree with that decision doesn't give you the right to drag him through court. She paused. I'm awarding Mr. Mitchell costs and attorney fees. You'll be paying for this case, Mrs. Mitchell, both sides. Jennifer's face went white. $47,000 in attorney fees, plus costs, plus interest. The money I'd given her over 18 months. She'd be paying every penny back. Just not to me. To Jerry Blackwood. We walked out of the courthouse into afternoon sun. Jerry clapped me on the shoulder. Well fought, Tom. Thanks for standing with me. Wouldn't have been anywhere else. He glanced at Jennifer and Greg, standing by their car. You think she'll try again? No. I watched my daughter. She was crying. Greg had his arm around her. She's done. She knows she lost. I drove home. Same route I'd driven for 43 years. Past the power company where I'd worked. Past the diner where Martha and I used to get breakfast on Saturdays. Past the park where I'd taught Jennifer to ride a bike. Past a life that was over now. Changed irrevocably. I pulled into my driveway, got out, looked at my house. The house I'd bought with Martha. The house where we'd raised our daughter. The house where Martha had died. My house. Not Jennifer's. Not anyone else's. Mine. I'd protected it. Protected myself. Protected my right to make my own decisions about my own life. It had cost me my daughter. But maybe I'd lost her years ago. Maybe I'd just been too busy supporting her to notice. Inside, my phone buzzed. Text from Bob Turner. Coffee Thursday? I'm buying. I smiled. Typed back, you're always buying. But yes. Another text. Pastor Williams. Tom, food pantry Saturday. We're expecting a big crowd. I'll be there. Another. Bill Mitchell. Cowboys versus Eagles, Sunday after church. My place. Bring chips. See you there. My church. My friends, my life. I set the phone down, looked around my kitchen. At the table I'd built, the cabinets Martha had picked out, the window where sun streamed in every morning, I'd lost my daughter. That was true. The pain of it sat in my chest, like a stone. But I'd kept everything else. My faith, my community, my self-respect, my right to live my own life on my own terms. That had to be enough. It would have to be enough. Because at 70 years old, alone in a house full of memories, I'd finally learned something important. I'd rather be alone and respected than surrounded and used. I'd rather have peace than obligation. I'd rather have truth than pretense. And I'd rather spend my last years living for something that mattered, my faith, my community, my values, than spend them being an ATM for someone who'd forgotten I was also a father, a person. A man who deserved better. The coffee on the counter had gone cold again. I poured it out, made a fresh cup, sat down at my table, the same table where this had all started, where Pastor Williams had asked me about my faith, where I'd counted up 18 months of giving, where I'd decided enough was enough. I opened my laptop, checked my calendar. Thursday coffee with Bob, Saturday food pantry, Sunday football at Bill's, Tuesday volunteer shift at the community center. Next Sunday service, my life. Full, purposeful, mine. The house was quiet, but it wasn't empty. Not anymore. If you like this story, please like it, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions in the comments. To listen to more stories, click on the window on the right. Thank you for being with us.